one last panel today, and I'm really excited to be here to discuss the ingredients of success for Web3 gaming. I think it's a great topic to wrap up the event today. My name is Pichapen, call me Picha. I'm the founder of Game Unity with Guild of Guilds and Web3 Enabler. So today we have three lovely panelists, and I would love for you to all introduce yourself and your projects.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is that working? Nice to meet you all. I'm Nathan Benchimol. I'm the CEO at Nomiks. We're one of the leading European players in token design, token economics. Our job when it comes to gaming is to try to build a game as sustainable as possible, so that everyone playing the game feels happy and not frauded, basically.
So hi everyone, my name is Carla. I am the Communications and Marketing Director over at Pixelcraft Studios. We are the creators of Avagachi, which is essentially a very adorable on-chain ghost that you can use across the different games that we have in the ecosystem.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm from Singapore. I'm an advocate of transformative technologies like blockchain and AI. I'm also deeply passionate about many subjects, including NFTs and gaming. This means that I'm a gamer in my spare time. I'm also an advisor and investor in various Web3 projects, which often involve the use of NFTs. As the head of strategy at ELF, we're a Singapore-based layer 1 blockchain, and we are also deeply passionate and supportive of NFTs and gaming. I'm super fortunate that my interests and my work are aligned. Yeah, I'm super happy to be here and very excited that we're here to share more about this space right as crypto and NFT prices are booming again.
Yeah, thank you for your introduction. It's such a perfect time to be discussing this also in Paris as well. And as we are diving into the topic of the key success for Web3 games, I think I would like to start the panel with what defines success for Web3 gaming. We can go with you first, maybe.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. To define success, and of course when it comes to blockchain, there is this new financial criteria that is at stake, but it can't be the only one because a game remains a game. So for me, just as an introduction, it needs to be this perfect environment, atmosphere, where we manage to cope every player's behaviors, and especially the gamers, but also what we were while talking about this, also the predators, who are basically the speculators, because whether you want it or not, those people are going to be here. It's part of the game. They're going to put in money, but you need to cope of the consequence of their potential actions. That's going to be my introduction. I'm happy to deep dive around that too.
So for me, what would define success in Web3 gaming is being able to bring all the amazing elements that we have seen in Web2 games. The typical ones that we've seen, like great gameplay, the immersive experiences, everything from graphics, FX, everything, and integrate it with all the innovative technology that Web3 brings, and then being able to take that to our players and create this new world that is still just as good as what they've always experienced.
I think for me, it's very simple. Really just number of players. We need to see way more players in Web3 gaming. And if you look at every quarter, there are a lot of associations that publish reports to say what are the top 10 chains, for blockchain gaming. And if you look at that, the total MAU, of all the top 10 chains combined, it's just a few million, and that is way lower than even one successful Web2 game. And this is the whole industry, right? Which is, I think, pretty sad. So I think for me, success in this space would then mean that you need to start onboarding Web2 players. And you need to abstract away this whole Web3 gaming thing, and like, you know, how do you make it just that it's a game, right? Like they don't care what you call it, and they're willing to come in and play. Yes, I think it's just very simple, right? Like you need to create a game that is appealing to the masses, and then MAU grows for the entire industry. And you know, there's no longer this distinction between like Web2, Web3 gaming, and you know, whatever you want to call it. It's just a game. It's a good game. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for your answers. As we dive into this topic, I think like, you know, with the panelists from different categories, also with the combinations of you know, what defined successful Web3 gaming, I would like to go to you first, Carla, into the topic of, you know, as a game developer, for example, you know, there's a lot of arguments about the sustainability for games, and I would love for you to share your experience a little bit more into details of how to balance it, like, you know, and then like, you know, like from the introductions to onboarding, there must have been like things that you learn along the way, and then have to kind of pivot as well. Would love to understand that a little bit, because success then kind of comes into different phases.
Of course. So I feel that I'm fortunate enough to have worked with some amazing franchises across my career, because I did start like over in Web2 gaming at Blizzard Entertainment. So I did see all these key elements of what makes a great game and what makes it stick. What I definitely saw through like every franchise that I worked with, it was having those key elements for success, and it's the ones that I just mentioned. It's being able to create that gameplay that players just want to keep coming back to, that lore that they suddenly feel connected to, and also makes them want to grow with the game. So therefore, as long as you're keeping content coming, and then you're making sure to expand on it, they just keep coming back, they keep staying with you. And then you have to also keep up with the technology as it moves. So that's something that I saw with, for example, World of Warcraft, which is a game that started with very basic graphics, and you could look at it now, and it just keeps going, right? So it's kept up with its technology to make sure that gamers keep coming back to it, because they don't see this as, you know, a game that they played 10 years ago. They see it as the game they continue to play for over 10 years. So for me, that's what makes it sustainable, and it's just keeping up with everything and making sure you have the right ingredients.
Yeah, with the evolvement as well with the technologies, then basically you kind of have to, you know, be a little bit open to what comes next, right? The next questions for you, Nathan. Balancing the community and economics in Web3 games, it basically, you talk about ownership, and also like with our discussion just before as well, you emphasize a little bit of how data plays important role in giving insight into the improvement in this regard, the balance.
Yeah, the starting point being to say, in my opinion, I mean, the two ladies have more experience in working in the gaming field than me, but I think it's a fact to say that the traditional business model, to begin with that, of selling a game, 70 euros, and then selling a DLC for another 30, where there's no major shift for the player, it requires changing, and this is why, you know, I do think blockchain is one of the biggest use case for gaming. And when it comes to the economy, we've had the chance to see since 2020 the first mistakes that have been made by a couple of games, but it's hard to blame on them because they were the market openers. If we think about either Decentraland or Axie Infinity, the problem was that the value generated from the game was captured by a single portion of the community, which were not the one playing the game. That was a big issue, so that you could see players playing all day long, generating value, this value being dumped on the secondary market by a lot of traders. So there is indeed, as you said, this challenge of balancing the economy. So how do we do? I truly think we need this user-owned economy where it's not just I'm gonna sell upfront NFT collection that I need to sold out, and then I'm gonna launch an ICO. That is not the good way to do. I really think, as it was said, in the introduction that first you need to focus on the game, and then you can add the blockchain layer maybe after, but it needs to be user-owned. This means the game studio needs to accept that he's sharing his economy with the player, with the people sharing the game, and they are not going to be liquidity providers only, they are also going to benefit and lose from this economy. That means the propriety and the revenues of the NFT collection being shared among the studio and the players. Same for the token afterwards. And well, I think that's one of the key to success when it comes to balancing the economy.
Thank you. Do you have also like some example of what you see now in the market?
I like Big Time. Weirdly enough, I'm not sure about their marketing wish to make it big, but to me it's a huge there are huge examples that are happening right now. We see also EVE Online building some very interesting stuff. But if you see Big Time, it's currently quite a good success. You see the interaction of players with the NFTs and what I'm thinking about, trying to think about another example we could have seen. But I really like the launch of Big Time. I think it's good. They have a great community. Didn't deep dive into the figures, but voilà. One example I like.
Thank you. The next questions go to you, Linda. When we talk about what we see now in the market, and then there's like different approaches and different kind of adoptions in terms of technology, as you just mentioned as well. What innovations or solutions you see that would help like onboarding more players, and also you just touched into that topic a little bit in terms of like getting more Web2 players to to play games and it become just games.
Right. I think it's not like so much of like innovations or anything, but so I think like there are two parts to it, right? So first of all, like on the tech part, so I think companies need to ensure that there's scalability in what they do, and also that they can provide like very seamless experiences for the users. So I think for me this means that like technology providers, like core technology providers, like say public blockchains, we need to step up our game and we need to start providing solutions to developers that are so easy to deploy, and while also considering like what the end customers want, right? So for instance, like in Web3 gaming, like if I'm somebody who doesn't know what to do and I'm like, oh, I have to set up a wallet first, I have to do all these things, and it's just a pain. So I think for us at ELF, right, we pride ourselves on scalability, as well as like just simplicity. So in terms of scalability, we are one of the pioneers of the main chain, side chain technology. So this means that while ensuring TPS, we because we have all these like parallel transactions ongoing, you're never going to be inhibited by somebody else. Like your players are not going to complain and whatnot. But at the same time, we constantly develop new products like AA wallets. What this means is that in layman's term, it takes away like the whole complexity of setting up a Web3 wallet. So like if you're just a player, you can create a game account on your favorite game, and then automatically upon account creation, your wallet is also created. So if you want to just play the game normally and you don't want to purchase anything, you can. But like the minute you want to, let's say, mint an NFT, you want to buy an in-game asset, like you don't even know it, right? You can still pay with cash if you don't have crypto, but this automatically goes into your wallet. The NFT is stored on your wallet, which is already within this game. Yeah, so it's a very seamless experience. And then obviously we also have like the whole ecosystem, NFT marketplace and whatnot. And at the same time, we are developing a new developer center, whereby any developer can come in and they can try to build within like a local environment. They can try to deploy a smart contract onto testnet and things like that. Yeah, and also similarly, I think there needs to be enough support on the business side of things. Like it's not enough to just give grants or investments. Um, like I always say, like every good layer one or layer two, for that matter, needs to provide some kind of consulting service to the enterprises, to the projects that are building on your chain. Yeah, and this then means that you need to, help them with go-to-market strategies. You need to help them to think of like, how do you appeal to your users, and you need to really think of, like things that are not just restricted to crypto or Web3. You need to think like, hey, what makes this game fun? What would make players come back? And I think a lot of Web3 games, because I have looked through thousands of applications for our grant program, right? And obviously rejected like hundreds and hundreds of them. And because I haven't seen like very superb gameplay, and like it doesn't have to be complicated, right? It can be a very simple game, but I haven't seen something that's super addictive. And I think the number one rule for any good game is that there must be this addiction factor. And I personally think that the play to earn model is wrong. Because every good game, in my opinion, I've been a gamer for a really long time now, right? And I have I've helped to boost and crash many game economies. I've been banned by quite a few gaming companies. And so like I have built a lot of guilds and whatnot, right? And I really think every good game needs to have at least 85% free-to-play players. And if you don't have that, you're bound to fail. So I think like really it's combining Web 2 knowledge with Web 3, or like really just like what a normal human being wants, with technology, and then providing business solutions on top of that.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think like the narratives that we see now for Web3 gaming this year, there's a few things as well, and that goes with the interoperability and scalability. Free to play also open up the option for people to test the game first without investing, and I think that has been one of the things that would drive more adoption as well. Like on this topic, because you also mentioned as a gamer as well, I would like to hear your thoughts as well on this, both of you.
Just to add on, because I really agree with what Linda said, I think it's, just to the general context, I think it's what happened. I'm going to tell a story again, but in 2020, 2021, there was a lot of fundraising regarding gaming, so we're only starting to see now the consequences of what they are doing with those funds. I think it's going to be 24 and 25, the first consequences. And one of the examples that we are following with the Nomiksand team, for instance, is the Epic game is trying to realize maybe one of the biggest challenges of Web3 gaming is the interoperability and compatibility between games. That's why with Fortnite and I think it's Rocket League, they're building this cross pass where players have a double game progression, and I think that's super smart because it creates, and again, I'm going to talk about money, but that's kind of our job in the token economics. It creates additional frictions and then additional microtransactions, because now, as I said in the introduction, buy a game €70 and then a DLC, I think that's dead. It's more about microtransaction now, and I think this interoperability, I'm going to manage that, is about microtransaction, and if possible, in between games. That's for me one of the biggest challenge, and something that we are following closely. Like the green one.
There we go. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna piggyback on that, because I have to say I feel very proud to be part of a project right now. So Avagachi, we are very close to launching our Avagachi gaming console, which is actually going to be looking at interoperability to be able to have this cross ecosystem and cross game everything, bring it together for the whole entire Avagachi ecosystem. So what we want to do is give players that digital identity that can be carried across all of the different franchises that we have and those that are also built by other developers within, you know, the Gotchiverse, where they will be able to carry over their progression, their achievements, their little gotchis. Obviously, you can use them in the different ones. So we are tackling that, or we think we're tackling that, and that's one of the things that, as we said, yes, other like Web2 companies are trying to say, okay, how do we do this now, right? Because yes, you do have the ones that I worked on myself. You have BattleNet, which tries to bring the whole entire Blizzard experience under one place, but it's still not cross game. You're still not taking it across. It's sort of not impossible, but not really something that Web2 did. Whereas now we are doing that with Web3. So for me, I'm just happy that I get to be part of that new movement.
So excited. What's the timeline?
No. You're
Is
not
that
gonna get that out of me.
No alpha?
Follow our socials.
Okay.
I'm really curious, like how are you ensuring the interoperability part? Like how are you trying to carry all the assets across different games, you know, given that most of your projects are on multi-chains?
So we're also going to be launching the Gotchi chain. So we're going to have our own chain. So everything's
Okay.
going to be there.
Right,
Essentially.
but is it like a private chain or?
Can't give you many details just yet. 'Cause we will be releasing a lot of that.
Awesome.
So do follow us, and
Okay.
you'll see everything there.
Do you wanted to add anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, you know, I wanted to jump on I think what
curious.
Nick said because he mentioned, you know, like the whole Epic situation, and I think, you know, like we all know that like they have been like, hey, we're not going to go into Web3 gaming, and then they're like, oh, we're only going to take a few IPs and we're going to give it a try, and then now they're like, bam, you know, like we want to be the next Steam for Web3, you know, and like I think really it's very important to have like these major players supporting the industry
Yeah.
and, you know, providing their know-how right in the space, because like a lot of Web3 game makers, they don't know what they're doing. I mean, honestly, like they're just jumping on the bandwagon and they're like, oh, I think I can do this. But yeah, I mean, you can understand the crypto part of it. You can try to, you know, like build a whole economy around that. But is that the actual game economy a normal player wants? And if not, this is exactly why we're not seeing mass adoption. And I feel like, you know, these massive publishers, they can do more. You know, like I feel like there can be a lot more education in the space. But that is also why I'm very passionate about like Web3 in general or blockchain, right? Because it's not about like, oh, I'm just trying to be a monopoly. I'm trying to, you know, like play the whole capitalist game. You know, like the whole ethos of Web3 is really in knowledge sharing. And like so I feel like when big players in the Web2 space, when they come in, they need to, you know, be willing to be part of it. Yeah.
And also, you know, they're all looking at each other, all the big studios, you know, who's going to make the first step.
Right.
We had Ubisoft, I mean, the French, and again, I'm forgetting your name, I'm terrible with names, but they tried, they had an initiative with Z something, I can't remember the name, platform, which is, and I think that was unfair, not well received by their community. So this is, as of today, this is the precedence. That's why they're all afraid to, you know, make this first step, make this first move. Who's gonna try to tackle this Web3 challenge and try to change the business model? Because yeah, they also have investors behind, and it's all about that too. But I really think it's gonna happen either 24 or 25. We're gonna see the big change. But yeah.
Thank you. Actually, I wanted to add one more question for you. You know, like as you are trying to push like all the different elements of the ecosystem together, there must be like, you know, obviously the considerations of like the communities and existing gamers, as well as getting more people to explore the ecosystem, right? I think like one of the things that was discussed also in terms of educating gamers of like the potentials, the upsides, and how to engage in the ecosystem has been one of the things that has been challenging for a lot of games. I mean, over the last years as well, like the last cycle, there's been like trials and errors, different approaches, And I think like communication is one of the things that would add on to the successfulness of the success of the Web3 gaming. And I want to dive into that, starting with you first.
Sure thing. I mean, that's my jam, right? So communications first and foremost. And yes, that is something that's always been very hard, especially with gamers. They do tend to be a little bit resistant to change. It's something that I've seen over. You're gonna have to leverage everything on comms, on being able to educate them the right way. And that doesn't mean the right way as to what a company might consider the right way. It's the right way for gamers. Because a lot of the time, the mistake that we make in terms of communication is thinking about, okay, this is the message that I want to push. But that's not the way that you have to take it. You have to go back and say, okay, what do they want to hear? And now how can I push my message through there? So in this case, when it comes to Web3, we all know the moment that you say Web3, NFT, crypto, anything like that in a traditional gaming space, everybody just freaks out. They say it's a scam, it's all of this, but it's not. So the only way to make that big scary world not so scary is by doing it in little bite-sized forms. Having them come on in a seamless experience, as other panelists have said, where you're not necessarily just pushing all these big buzzwords that are absolutely terrifying on them, but something just like, hey, create an account, rather than create a wallet, right? So it's a simple word that with the right communication just takes away that fear that they might have towards it. I can speak from experience myself because I only got into Web3 like about 2 years ago, and I'm still learning the ropes. It's still very scary. And as a traditional gamer, I mean, the first time I heard anything about NFTs, I was like, nope, not doing this. Like, it's just not happening, because there was no one there to like hold my hand and go like, no, wait, let me teach you about it. Like, it's not as scary. Then thankfully there's a great like Web3 gaming community. It's all over the place. I mean, we have one of the greatest ones in Navagachi. I've seen it, where you will have people hold your hand and say, 1 second, it's not that bad. Let me tell you what this word means. I mean, the first time I heard bull run or bear run, I was thinking like, oh, it must be a nice game with bulls and bears. And then somebody actually explained what it was, and then it wasn't that bad. So for me, yes, it all goes down to communication. Like, just do it right. Make sure that you're doing it in a way that your audiences, in this case, our gamers, are going to understand. And think as a gamer first. Like, don't go there thinking as a company or as a product. Think as a gamer first. Be a geek, and then go from there.
Sounds very simple, but a lot of I mean, a lot of the examples that we've seen in the market also like fail to see this. And yeah, I think bite size is really good point to that as well, because like, if you throw them chunks of messages, then it's just like too overwhelming, especially for the game itself. Also, there's a lot of things that they can have to do, right? On the communication topic, as like you're consulting or advising, one of the things that you like for projects to succeed, like for managing their own tokenomics, for example, that you need to balance, right? We talk about balance for the the holders of assets. When it comes to gamers or it comes to investors and so on, there's different type of communications that you would probably advise the project at different stages as well.
It's a very good question. And just to catch up on your example, because I liked it. So I was, and then I will jump into the subject. I was in private banking, this very traditional atmosphere environment. I decided to leave everything for blockchain, and I ended up with those guys telling me, okay, you buy this, you stack it on there. I wish every gamer not to go through the pain I went through for their own experience. But voilà, that's the end of the story. And for the communication, yeah, so it's a good question, because it just we just happened to make a successful token launch. Maybe you've heard of it. It's on their own. It's called Tada. We worked on the team for the last 2 years, and I don't know, they reach, I don't know, max 20-40 million market cap. I'm not sure, but it's a super project, AI based, and yeah, we could see the insights of the challenge of communication between investors, users, and also we could see the battles or the negotiations around the tokenomics, because okay, we provided the token economics, a model, 26 pages, and then there is the launchpad layer, and then there's the investor layer. They are all trying to either get the most of it for themselves, or voilà. So it's key for the project, and I think Tada mastered that, to make sure they remain in charge of their communication. Timing is more than crucial. Voilà, and you need to know, obviously I'm not an expert in communication, but you need to have a clear view of what you're going to tell for the next 30, 35 days. It needs to be written, organized, and you need to adapt. Okay, we're experiencing sell pressure because of this, that. It's time to invest, because it's also a job, not only it's a three-party game. There is the project, there is the tokenomics guy, and there is the market maker, and all that is also dealing with communication, because it's whether, depending on what you're going to communicate, the sell pressure, the buy pressure needs to be apprehended by the rest of the players. So it's super important. I'd say maybe 70% of the entire job, actually. Tokenomics being maybe 10% of it in the end. Voilà.
Thank you. I think we're running out of time, right? Okay, so last question. I really enjoyed this discussion, but I mean, just to bring back to the main discussion in terms of the success of Web3 gaming as well. Like, we're seeing the signal. The market is picking up. Everyone's bullish. We're here in Paris, or NFT Paris, where one of the biggest narratives, Web3 gaming. What do you see happening this year? Like, I would like to hear your, I guess, like, last questions for each one of you in terms of your predictions for this year, and the project, obviously yours as well. Like, where you see the key role into driving successes of the projects, or what you're working on towards that for the market.
In one sentence, because we're running out of time, Rockstar Games purchasing Fiven, meaning they're going to heavily focus on the online mode. For me, it means something to do with blockchain, and there is something to be done there. That's what I'm going to watch. 24. That's what we're going to watch, because voilà, the whales, aka the studios, are starting to move.
So yeah, pretty much again piggybacking on that. For me this year, I can just see a lot of Web2 studios just accepting the fact that Web3 is here and it's here to stay. So okay, how do you get in there and doing it the right way? In our case, like, that is one of the things. Again, we have the fortune to have a lot of Web2 people within the studio ourselves, so we know how to make those integrations. So we have a lot of great plans coming, because we're saying, okay guys, now is when things are going to start merging. Let's make sure we create these amazing games that we know traditional gamers are going to absolutely adore, and then provide them with all this new technology as a Web3 being a utility layer that's just going to bring amazing advantages for them.
I think I expect to see a lot of different projects trying to raise, and end successfully raising. But I also expect to see a lot of projects fail. They can raise, but then can they build a good game, right? But at the same time, I'm also excited to see a lot of good game, game makers, if you will, who actually know how to run a business, embrace the free-to-play model, and actually make good addictive games.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your thoughts with us today. It's a real pleasure. And I think with that, we're wrapping up the last panel today.